It started like any other evening. The campfire crackled, marshmallows roasted, and laughter echoed through the trees. But by the time the sun dipped behind the peaks, everything changed. "Lily," her father called out, stepping around the campsite. "Lily, sweetheart, where are you?" Silence. At first, they thought she was playing, maybe hiding behind a log, giggling. But minutes turned to half an hour, and soon flashlights were out, slicing through the thickening dark. "She was just here," her mother whispered, voice trembling. "She was right here." By midnight, search teams were on site. Volunteers came with headlamps and walkie-talkies. The air had turned sharp and cold, the kind that bites through jackets and sinks into your bones. But the worst chill came from the fear, the deep, creeping fear that Lily was alone out there. That's when they called in Max, a canine officer with years on the field, gray around the muzzle, scars near the eyes. He didn't bark, didn't growl, just walked out of the truck, nose twitching, eyes locked like a soldier answering an ancient call. "He's our best tracker," the handler said. "If she's out there, Max will find her." They handed him a small jacket. "Lily's." Max sniffed it once, then again, slower this time. His ears perked. Then, without a sound, he took off into the woods, pulling his handler behind him. "Go, Max," the handler muttered. "Bring her back." The forest swallowed them almost instantly. Max moved fast, weaving between trees, over rocks, nose to the ground. He didn't hesitate. Every few feet he'd pause, sniff again, then charge ahead. The handler barely kept up. "She came this way," he said into the radio. Dogs locked in, but miles in, the trail went cold. Max stopped, lifted his head, sniffed the air. His body tensed. "What is it, boy?" the handler asked. Max didn't move. His eyes scanned the dark. Then a sound, distant, faint, a small whimpering cry. "Help." The handler froze. "Did you hear that?" Max shot forward. "Max, wait." Branches slapped the handler's arms and face as he followed the dog deeper into the dark. Max ran like he knew time was bleeding away. After several brutal minutes, he stopped, barked once. There, curled under a fallen tree, was Lily. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "Hi," she whispered, barely audible. "I got lost." Max crouched beside her, nudged her face with his nose, gently licked her cheek. "It's okay," the handler said softly. "You're safe now. We've got you." Lily reached out and clung to Max's fur. "I heard him," she said. "I heard him barking. I knew someone was coming." The handler radioed in. "We've got her, alive. We've got her." Tears fell down his cheeks as he wrapped Lily in a thermal blanket. Max stayed right beside her, not moving an inch. When the team arrived, cheers went up. Some cried. Others hugged. Lily's parents ran forward, collapsing to their knees. "Oh my God," her mother sobbed. "Lily." Max didn't react to the chaos. His job was done, but he kept his eyes on Lily, even as they lifted her into the rescue chopper. She wouldn't stop petting his head. "He saved me," she said. "He found me." Later, in the quiet after the storm, one of the search team members knelt beside Max. "How did he do it in that cold, that dark?" she asked. "He's not even young." The handler gave a tired smile. "He's not young, but he's got something stronger than youth. He's got purpose." Max lay down near the fire, finally resting, but his eyes stayed open, always watching, always waiting for the next call. Max didn't bark. He didn't whine. He simply closed his jaws around Lily's tiny sock and lowered his head to the ground. His tail went stiff, his breath slowed. Then suddenly he moved. Officer Daniels followed close behind, flashlight beam bouncing, boots crunching on fallen leaves. The forest was a maze of shadows, but Max moved like the darkness didn't matter. "He's locked in," Daniels whispered into his radio. "Moving northwest. Stay sharp." Max wasn't just tracking, he was remembering. 3 years ago, he'd pulled a half-conscious soldier from beneath a collapsed building in a war zone. Smoke everywhere, bullets flying. But Max didn't stop until the man was out. That same fire now burned behind his eyes. Daniels knew that look. "Easy, boy. Stay on her," he whispered. "You've got this." Every few steps Max would pause. Sniff again. Adjust. He passed a patch of flattened grass. A small footprint. Broken twigs. He didn't need words to understand what they meant. Lily had been here. "She's walking," Daniels said. "Not running." "That's good." But then came the first twist. Max froze. His body rigid, ears high. Daniels stopped breathing for a second. "What is it?" Max turned his head slightly and let out a low growl, just once. Then he bolted left off the trail, down a steep hill through brambles. "Max," Daniels called. "Where are you going?" The flashlight beam jerked wildly as he gave chase, ducking low branches, heart pounding. Max had never veered off a scent before, never. But then he saw it. A shredded piece of pink fabric caught on a branch. Lily's jacket. Daniels knelt and gently tugged it free. "Good boy, Max," he murmured. "She came this way. You're right." Max circled the tree, nose working furiously, his paws scratched at the dirt, desperate to pick up the trail again, and then there it was. A scent, faint but fresh. Max took off again, this time slower, more cautious. The forest began to change, thicker trees, the air colder, every sound felt sharper, more alive. Daniels kept his hand near his holster, not out of fear, out of habit. This part of the mountain was rarely touched. Locals called it the Back Hollow. Stories whispered about it. Old ones. "Stay close, Max," he said. "Let's not spook anything." Suddenly, Max stopped. He sniffed the air. Hard. Then he turned in a circle, confused. "What is it, boy?" Max barked once. Short, sharp, urgent. Daniels scanned the area. No movement, no sound. But Max wouldn't move. Then a small sound floated through the trees, a whimper, so soft it could have been the wind, but Max heard it. He bolted toward it, Daniels racing behind him. They broke through a patch of thorn bushes, and there, in the moonlight, was a little shoe. Daniels knelt and picked it up. "Lily," he whispered. Max was already sniffing the ground again, this time more intense. The trail was stronger now, fresher. They were close. He could feel it. But just as hope surged, Max stopped again. He turned his head to the right, into the trees. Daniels followed his gaze. There was something out there. A rustle, a heavy breath. Max growled, then silence. Daniels gripped his flashlight tighter. "Not now," he muttered. "Not when we're this close." But Max didn't charge. Instead, he shifted back toward Lily's trail and kept going. Whatever was watching, it stayed hidden, and Daniels didn't dare look back. After another few minutes, Max began to whimper, short, low sounds, almost like calling. Then a reply. "Help." It was weak, barely audible, but it was her. "Lily," Daniels shouted. "We're coming." Max surged forward, leaping over roots and rocks until he reached a hollow log. Curled inside, shivering, pale but alive, was Lily. She didn't speak, just reached out and grabbed Max, wrapping her arms around his neck. "You found me," she whispered. "I was so scared." Daniels knelt beside her. "It's okay now. You're safe." Max stayed completely still, letting her hold him like a lifeline. "She heard your bark," Daniels said softly, rubbing Max's ear. "She held on because of you." Lily clung tighter. "I thought I saw something in the woods," she whispered. "It had eyes, watching me." Daniels swallowed. "You're safe now," he said again, more for himself than her. He called it in. Rescue was on its way. But as they waited, Max didn't relax. His eyes stayed on the tree line. Ears up, body tense. He felt it too. Something wasn't right. And deep inside, he knew this mission wasn't over. The trees closed in like walls, tall and silent. No stars, no trail, just darkness. And Max, he didn't slow down. Not when thorns cut into his legs. Not when sharp rocks dug into his paws. Every scent he caught pushed him forward. Every broken twig was a clue. His body ached, but he didn't care. Daniels stumbled behind him, flashlight shaking in his hand. "Max," he breathed. "Slow down, buddy. I can't keep up." Max didn't stop. Not even for a second. He barked once. Sharp. Urgent. Then again. Louder. The sound bounced off the trees like a warning or a promise. "She's close," Daniels muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "I know you feel it." A branch snapped behind them. Daniels turned fast, shining the light. Nothing. Just the wind. "Still," Max growled. Low and deep. Daniels stepped closer. "What is it? You see something?" Max didn't growl again. Instead, he pushed forward, faster now. His ears perked. His tail stiff. He was on something fresh. They reached a small stream. Max paused, sniffed the wet stones, then turned sharply left. Daniels jumped over the water, nearly falling. "You better be right, boy," he said, panting. "We're running out of time." Max kept going, weaving through thick brush. Brambles tore at his fur, but he didn't flinch. He climbed a steep hill, pause, slipping in mud, and Daniels followed, legs burning, lungs heavy. "You're insane," he whispered, smiling through the pain. "But I trust you." At the top, Max stopped. He sniffed the air hard, chest rising and falling. Then he barked. But it was different this time. Not urgent, not angry. It was hopeful. Daniels looked around. "Did you find something?" Max moved to a cluster of trees. He circled a small area, nose pressed to the dirt. Then he sat right there. Daniels hurried over and knelt beside him. "What do you got?" Max nudged a torn ribbon in the grass, pink and dirty. Daniels picked it up. "Lilies," he whispered. He checked his radio. Static. No signal. "We're on our own." Max sniffed again, then turned his head. A new scent. He moved toward it, slower now. Careful. They stepped into a strange clearing. Quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No wind. Just the sound of Max's breathing. Daniels looked around. Why does this place feel wrong? Suddenly Max stopped. His ears twitched. And then they heard it. A faint sob. Daniels froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Max barked once. Short. Confirming. They both turned toward the sound. Another sob. Clearer this time. "Help." It was her. "Lily." Daniels shouted. "It's Officer Daniels. We're coming." Max ran, over logs, through brush, straight to a thicket of trees. There, barely visible in the shadows, was a small figure curled up on the ground. Lily. She was shivering, dirt on her face, scratches on her arms. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "Max?" she whispered. Max rushed forward and gently pressed his head into her chest. She wrapped her arms around his neck, sobbing. "I knew you'd come," she cried. "I knew it." Daniels dropped to his knees beside her. Hey, you're safe now. We've got you." He wrapped her in his jacket. "You cold?" he asked. She nodded, teeth chattering. "How long have you been here?" I don't know," she stammered. "I tried to follow the path but I got turned around." "You did the right thing staying put." Daniels. "And Max?" "Well, Max never gives up." She looked at Max. "He stayed with me. He always does." Daniels replied. But Max wasn't resting. He stood still, ears up, eyes staring back into the trees. "What's wrong?" Daniels asked. Max let out a low growl. Lily flinched. "That sound," she whispered. "I heard it before. Something was watching me." Daniels scanned the tree line with his flashlight. Nothing, but he felt it too. That strange chill, like they weren't alone. "We're getting out of here," he said firmly. He lifted Lily into his arms. She clung to him tight. Max walked ahead again, still alert, still guarding. The way back felt longer, darker, but Max didn't stop watching the woods. He knew the forest had secrets, and not all of them had been uncovered tonight. Max stopped like he'd hit an invisible wall. Daniels nearly ran into him. "What is it?" he asked, eyes scanning the area. Then he saw it, floating gently in the creek, barely caught between two rocks, was a tiny pink shoe, muddy, wet, but unmistakable. Daniels stepped into the water, boots sinking. He picked it up carefully, his hands shaking. "Lily," he breathed. She was here. The shoe was so small in his palm, it made everything real. But Max didn't stay still. He started pacing along the water's edge. nose in the air, whining. "What's wrong, boy?" Max barked, a short, urgent sound. Then he looked upstream. Daniels narrowed his eyes. "You think she went that way?" Max barked again, louder. "Okay." Daniels nodded. "Let's move." The current wasn't strong, but it was enough to sweep away a child. If Lily had fallen in, Daniels didn't finish the thought. He couldn't. Max trotted beside the waterline, eyes sharp, nose twitching constantly. His whines grew louder with each step. He wasn't just tracking. He was worried. Daniels could feel it too. The cold air bit harder now. The forest felt tighter, like it didn't want them here. Max stopped suddenly and sniffed the ground near a bent patch of grass. Daniels leaned down. "What is it?" "There are tiny footprints in the mud. Small. Barefoot." She got out of the water. Daniels, "She climbed out right here." Max whined again, tail down, nose darting side to side. Daniels stood. "Which way, Max?" The dog turned uphill. It was steep, rocky, overgrown, but Max didn't hesitate. Daniels followed, pulling himself up by roots and branches. Halfway up, Max barked twice. Daniels hurried to catch up. In the dirt was a handprint. "She crawled here," he muttered. "She's hurt." Max growled softly, his nose pointed ahead. Then he took off again. They moved faster now. Time was burning. Daniels didn't speak. He just ran. But every few steps, Max would pause and look back, like he was checking to make sure Daniels could keep up. "I'm coming, boy," he panted. "Don't you dare lose that trail." Suddenly, Max stopped again. This time his body was stiff, ears tall, tail straight. Daniels reached him and saw what had frozen the dog. Blood. Just a drop, on a leaf, fresh. Daniels felt his stomach twist. "Please let it be a scratch," he whispered. "Please." Max began to pace again, back and forth, sniffing the trees, whining louder now. He looked up, then bolted to the left. Daniels ran after him. "Don't go too far." Then they heard it. A scream, faint, high, terrified. "Lily!" Daniels shouted. "We're coming!" Max sprinted faster than ever. His barks echoed off the trees like sirens. Another scream. Daniels didn't think. He just ran. They broke into a clearing and stopped. At the far edge was Lily, cornered against a tree, face pale, eyes wide. In front of her stood a black shape, a wild boar, massive, snorting, pawing at the dirt. Max didn't wait. He launched. He hit the boar from the side, knocking it off balance. The animal screeched and turned, swinging its tusks. "Max!" Daniels screamed. Max dodged left, then right. He barked non-stop, keeping the boar's attention on him. Daniels ran to Lily. "It's okay, I've got you." He scooped her into his arms and backed away. Max kept circling, snarling, never letting the boar charge at them. "Come on, Max," Daniels shouted. "Let's go." With one final snap of his jaws, Max backed up, still growling as the boar finally turned and vanished into the woods. Max limped over, blood on his side. He dropped at Lily's feet. Lily sobbed and hugged him tight. "He saved me. He saved me." Daniels dropped to his knees beside them, breathing hard. "You're okay. You're safe." Lily looked at Max's wound. "Is he gonna be okay?" Daniels gently patted Max's side. "He's tough. He'll be just fine." Max let out a soft whimper but licked Lily's hand. Daniels radioed in, voice shaky. "We found her, injured, but alive, requesting medevac immediately, and send a vet team. The dog's hurt." He looked back at Max. "You're a hero, buddy." Max didn't care about praise. He just kept his eyes on Lily, tail thumping once. But in the distance, far beyond the trees, something still moved. And Max noticed. Even in pain, even now, he was still watching. The sky split open with a crack of thunder. Then came the rain. Not soft, not gentle. It hit like a curtain, thick, cold and blinding. Daniels pulled his hood tight. "We can't see a thing, Max." The flashlight beam barely reached a few feet. Mud soaked his boots. Trees bent under the storm. Everything felt like it was closing in. Max slowed for a moment, blinking water from his eyes. "We might need to wait this out," Daniels muttered, but Max didn't agree. Suddenly, he barked, louder than before, and took off. splashing through puddles and thick leaves. "Max!" Daniels shouted, slipping in the mud. "Don't wait up." Max didn't wait. Lightning flashed, lighting up the trees in a ghostly white. Then the ground rumbled. It wasn't thunder. It was deeper, heavier. Daniels froze. A low growl echoed from the earth. Then a roar of shifting dirt. A landslide. He ducked just in time, as rocks and branches crashed down the hillside beside him. "Max!" he yelled again, panicked. "Are you okay?" There was no answer. The forest was suddenly too quiet. No wind, no rustling, just silence. Daniels spun in circles, trying to spot any sign of the dog. "Max!" he screamed. "Lily!" Still nothing. His heart pounded in his chest like a drum. Then a bark. It was faint, but it was Max. Daniels ran toward the sound, slipping, falling, getting back up again. Finally, he spotted a flash of movement through the trees. Max, covered in mud, shaking, but standing. Daniels sprinted to him. "You all right, boy?" he panted. Max didn't look at him. He was staring straight ahead, tail stiff, ears locked. Daniels followed his gaze. A giant mess of fallen trees and broken earth lay ahead. The landslide had ripped through this part of the forest, tearing it open, and trapped beneath a tangle of branches was something pink. Daniel's stomach dropped. He raced forward, falling to his knees. It was a backpack. Lily, half buried in the mud, but still zipped. Daniels pulled it free with trembling hands. "Lily," he shouted. "Can you hear me?" No answer. The rain poured harder. Max began digging. Fast. Desperate. Daniels joined him, shoving aside wet leaves and splintered wood. "Come on," he whispered. "Please, please." Then Max barked. A sharp, sudden bark. And from beneath the mess came a sound. A cough. "Lily," Daniels gasped. A tiny voice, hoarse and scared, replied, "I'm here." Daniels froze for a second. Then he started digging faster, heart racing. "We're gonna get you out," he yelled. "Just hang on." Max pulled at a branch with his teeth, while Daniels ripped away vines and rocks. Finally, there she was, curled under a fallen log, arms around her head, her face streaked with dirt, but her eyes wide and alive. "I couldn't move," she whispered. "I heard the ground break. Then everything fell." Daniels reached for her gently. "It's okay. You're safe now." Max whined and licked her face as soon as she was clear. Lily let out a soft sob and hugged his neck. "You found me again," she cried. "You came back." Daniels checked her for injuries. Bruises. A cut on her forehead. But nothing broken. "You're gonna be all right," he said, holding her close. "We've got you." She looked at Max. He didn't stop. He never does. Daniels smiled through tears. Lightning flashed again, and a new crash of thunder rolled across the hills. Daniels grabbed his radio. "This is Officer Daniels. We've got her. Alive. Repeat, alive. Repost immediate evac. Location marked." He glanced at Max, who was now sitting quietly, staring into the trees again. The storm raged on, but inside that moment, it felt still, safe. Lily leaned into Max's side. "Can he come with me?" she asked softly. "On the helicopter?" Daniels chuckled. "He's not leaving your side. Not now. Not ever." But Max still wasn't resting. His ears twitched. His eyes scanned the dark woods, and Daniels noticed. He stepped beside him. "What is it now, boy?" Max didn't growl, didn't bark, but his body was tense, like he felt something they couldn't see. "Hey," Daniels said quietly. "It's over. She's safe." But Max didn't look away. Deep in those woods, something moved. Far. Slow. Watch. Daniels felt the chill creep up his spine again. He picked Lily up in his arms, holding her close. "Let's get out of here." As they made their way toward the clearing for pickup, Max looked back one last time. The trees whispered. The wind carried something strange. But Max didn't flinch. He just followed. Still guarding. Still ready. It was just a smear. Dark red. wet, still fresh. Daniels stopped cold, his breath caught. Max stood frozen beneath the tall pine, nose pressed to the bloody mark on the bark. He whimpered once, soft and unsure. Daniels stepped closer, heart pounding. "Please don't let it be hers," he whispered. He reached out and touched the stain. Sticky. Real. Max turned to look at him. And in that moment, Daniels saw something in his eyes he'd only seen once before. In the war, the moment before a soldier breaks into a sprint, knowing what he might find on the other side. Without warning, Max bolted uphill. "Max," Daniels shouted. "Wait." But Max didn't stop. His body moved like a bullet, legs digging into the loose dirt. The trail twisted into a sharp incline, a narrow cliffside path, no wider than a person's shoulders. One wrong step, and you'd fall. Daniels chased after him, boots slipping on rocks. "We shouldn't be going this way," he yelled. "It's not safe." But Max was already halfway up. Daniels kept climbing, using branches to steady himself. The wind howled through the trees. Rain still fell, turning the dirt to mud. "Slow down," he shouted. "I'm not a machine like you." But Max didn't slow. He paused only to sniff the ground, then darted ahead again. Daniels knew that pace. Max had locked onto something. The smell of blood, or Lily's scent, or both. He gritted his teeth and kept moving. Minutes felt like hours. The trail narrowed again, hugging the edge of the mountain. One side was rock wall, the other, nothing but fog, and the drop below. Daniels hugged the cliff, stepping carefully. "Max, be careful," he called out. He rounded a bend, and there was Max, standing still, staring at something up ahead. Daniels approached slowly. Then he saw a small piece of Lily's sweater, pink and torn, caught on a sharp rock. His heart sank. He knelt and picked it up. "This is hers," he said, his voice barely holding together. "She came this way." Max whined low in his throat and looked up the trail. The path, hate, was steep and broken, like part of it had crumbled recently. Daniels looked over the edge. Far below, twisted trees and boulders waited in silence. "If she fell," he said quietly, "we'd never—" He didn't finish. Max sniffed the ground again. Then he barked, just once, sharp, focused, and took off again. Daniels blinked back tears and followed. Each step was harder now. The path narrowed to almost nothing. Branches scratched his face. His legs screamed with every step, but he pushed through. Then Max stopped again and barked wild. Daniels scrambled to catch up. "What is it? What do you see?" Max stood at the edge of a rocky ledge, staring down into a small ravine. Daniels stepped beside him. At first he saw nothing. Then movement. A small hand, reaching out from beneath a log. "Lily!" Daniels screamed. He slid down the side of the ravine, grabbing roots, ignoring pain. Max followed close behind. When Daniels reached her, she was barely conscious, mud-covered, cold, blood on her knee, but breathing. "Lily." "It's me," he said, voice shaking. "It's Officer Daniels, I'm here." Her eyes opened, just a little. "You came," she whispered. "I never stopped," he said. "Max didn't let me." Max crawled beside her and rested his head on her chest. Lily weakly raised a hand and touched his fur. Daniels pressed his radio. "This is Daniels, I found her. She's hurt but alive. We're beneath the cliff trail. I need a vac now." He wrapped her in his jacket and held her tight. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're okay." But as he cradled her, something flickered in Max's behavior. The dog wasn't resting. He kept looking up, back toward the cliff, back into the forest. Daniels followed his gaze. The trees were still, but too still. Max growled, low and slow. Lily's hand clutched his fur tighter. "Something followed me," she whispered. "I heard it. It didn't sound like a person." Daniels tensed. "What did it sound like?" "Big," she said softly. "Heavy. Breathing." Daniels felt the cold bite through his skin. He looked at Max. still staring, still growling. He didn't want to admit it, but something didn't feel right. They had Lily, she was alive, but the forest hadn't let go. Not yet. And Max knew it. The fog rolled in like a living thing, silent and heavy. It crept between the trees, swallowing the path, hiding the sky. Daniels couldn't see more than 5 feet ahead. "Lily," he shouted. His voice bounced back at him, empty and hollow. Nothing, just the fog. He spun in circles, heart pounding. His flashlight barely lit the ground. "Max," he called out. No reply. Then he heard it. A whisper, so soft he almost missed it. "Help." He froze. "Lily, help." Max's ears perked from the mist, his body stiff. Without warning, he shot forward into the white blur, vanishing in seconds. "Max, wait." Daniels chased him, boots pounding the wet ground, arms outstretched. The slope was slick. His foot slipped, and he crashed to the ground, hitting hard. "Ugh. No. No." He groaned, scrambling back up. "Where are you?" he yelled. "Talk to me." Then barking. Wild. Loud. Urgent. Daniels forced his legs to move, pushing through vines and branches. He followed the sound. Closer. Louder. Max's voice cutting through the fog like a flare. Then he saw him. Just ahead, near a cluster of trees. Max stood barking nonstop, tail rigid, eyes locked on something behind a fallen log. Daniels rushed to his side. "What is it, boy?" Max didn't answer, just whined and circled. Daniels stepped closer, and then he saw her. Lily, half buried under leaves and branches, curled into a ball. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound of his voice. "Lily," he gasped. "Oh my God." He dropped to his knees and gently brushed debris from her body. She was cold. So cold. Her fingers were stiff, lips pale, but she was breathing. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're okay now." She blinked slowly. "I got lost." Max let out a soft bark and licked her hand. "You saved me," she whispered, eyes barely open. He barked so loud. Daniels pulled off his coat and wrapped it around her small frame. "I've got you," he said softly. "You're safe." He clicked on his radio. "This is Officer Daniels. I've located the girl. She's alive, but hypothermic. We need evac right now. GPS ping to follow." He looked down at Max. "You did it, buddy." Max licked Lily's face, then sat beside her protectively, not moving an inch. Daniels reached for her hand. "Lily, can you hear me? Stay with me." She nodded weakly. "I heard something in the trees," she murmured. Daniels leaned closer. "What kind of something?" She shivered. "It wasn't a person." Max growled suddenly. A low rumbling sound. Daniels looked up. The fog was thicker now, denser, and something was moving inside it. Slow, quiet, too quiet. Daniels scanned the woods with his flashlight, but the beam bounced off fog like a wall. He couldn't see anything. Max stepped in front of Lily, growling louder now. Daniels stood, pulling Lily closer. "I don't like this," he muttered. "Not at all." Suddenly, a branch snapped. To the left, then another closer. Max barked fiercely, his whole body stiff. Daniels pointed his light toward the sound. "Nothing." "Show yourself," he shouted. No answer. Just silence again. Even the birds had stopped. Then the radio crackled. "Evac team inbound. ETA 5 minutes. Signal received." Daniels breathed a sigh of relief. "Hang on, Lily. We're almost out." Max didn't relax. His eyes stayed on the trees. Something was still there. Watching. Waiting. Daniels knelt again and held Lily close. "You're gonna be okay. Just hang on," she whispered. "Max stayed with me. Even in the dark." Daniels smiled. "That's what he does." But even as he said it, the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Because the forest wasn't still, something moved again. Too big to be a deer. Too quiet to be human. Max barked again, deep and angry. Daniels reached for his sidearm, but the fog swallowed everything. Then the sound stopped, and so did Max's barking. He just stood there, ears high, staring into the white, like he saw something the others couldn't. Daniels whispered, "What do you see, boy?" Max didn't look away, didn't blink, just watched. And Daniels realized the forest hadn't finished with them yet. Max stood still, ears up, body tense. He didn't move a muscle, his breath hot and fast in the cold night air. There, beneath the fallen log, was Lily, her small body curled tight, face pale and streaked with mud. Bruises marked her arms, her clothes were soaked and torn. She didn't speak, just trembled. Daniels dropped beside her, heart in his throat. "You found her, buddy. You did it." His voice cracked. He reached out, gently touching Lily's hand. It was ice cold. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Daddy," she whispered. Daniels swallowed hard. "No, sweetheart. I'm Officer Daniels. You're safe now. We're gonna get you home." Max lowered his head and licked her cheek softly. Lily blinked again, and her lip quivered. "Max, he didn't leave me." Daniels pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. "You're so brave, Lily. Just hang on." He clicked on his radio. "We have the girl. Repeat. We have the girl. She's alive. But she's weak. Need evac coordinates now." Then, crack, a sharp snapping sound echoed above them. Daniels froze. Max's ears twitched. He looked up fast, eyes narrowing. Another crack, then a low groan. Daniels followed Max's gaze. The cliff overhead was moving. "Get down," he yelled. Rocks tumbled loose, bouncing violently down the slope. Dust filled the air. Branches broke. The log above them trembled. Daniels threw himself over Lily, shielding her body. Max barked furiously, running in tight circles, trying to warn them both. More rocks fell. A large chunk of dirt broke free and slammed into the ground feet away. Then came silence. Daniels looked up, breathing hard. The top of the cliff had shifted. A massive slab of earth hung above them, cracked and ready to fall. "We have to move," Daniels muttered. Now, he scooped Lily into his arms. She groaned softly, clinging to him. "It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." Max led the way, darting ahead, but stopping every few steps to look back. Daniels climbed carefully, slipping on wet leaves. His boots sank in the mud, legs screaming with each step. "Don't stop," he muttered. "Don't stop now." Behind them, the groaning earth continued to shift. Then, another snap, and then the cliff above them gave way. "Run," Daniels shouted. Max shot forward. Daniels pushed through branches, gripping Lily tight against his chest. The ground shook behind them. Boulders thundered down like a wave. Trees snapped like twigs. Daniels jumped over a log, nearly falling. Mud sprayed everywhere. Max barked, guiding him left, to a slope. A narrow trail barely wide enough for one man. Daniels took it. A final boom echoed. A tree crashed behind them, just feet away. Then, quiet. The landslide had passed. Breathing hard, Daniels collapsed to his knees. Lily whimpered softly, burying her face in his chest. "You're okay," he said again, more to himself than her. "We made it." Max came back, circling them, tail wagging but low. He nudged Lily's foot gently. Daniels looked around. They were deeper in the woods now, but safe for the moment. He checked Lily again. Her pulse was weak, but steady. "You're strong, kiddo," he whispered. So strong." Max sat beside them, eyes still scanning the trees. He didn't relax. Daniels noticed. "What is it, boy?" Max didn't bark, didn't growl, but his eyes were sharp, focused. Something was out there, watching. Daniels tensed. He'd felt this before, in war zones, in places where silence meant danger. He pulled Lily closer and spoke into his radio again. "Evac. What's your status, girl?" "Located. But terrain is unstable. We need airlift ASAP." Crackling, then a reply. "Chopper is 5 minutes out. Look for flares. We're coming in low." Daniels exhaled. "Just barely. 5 minutes." He whispered, "Just hold on." But Max didn't move, didn't blink, Daniels followed his gaze. Nothing but trees and fog, yet something didn't feel right. He stood, adjusting Lily in his arm. Max walked ahead again, sniffing the air, ears twitching. Daniels whispered, "Stay close, buddy. Don't lose us." They moved slowly now, step by step. Branches snapped underfoot. The wind picked up again. The forest felt restless. Max suddenly stopped, his body low, tail stiff. Daniels felt it too. Something was coming, and they didn't have 5 minutes to wait. The roar behind them was like thunder, only worse. Alive, wild, and chasing. Daniels held Lily tight, her face pressed against his chest. He couldn't think, couldn't breathe, just Max darted ahead, ears pinned, paws kicking up mud as he carved through the forest like a streak of instinct. "Don't stop, Max," Daniels yelled again, voice nearly lost in the crashing chaos. The ground trembled under his boots. Branches rained down. The forest wasn't just collapsing. It was breaking apart like it didn't want them to escape. "Please hang on, Lily," Daniels whispered, slipping on a slick patch of moss. He caught himself on a tree trunk, then pushed forward, leg muscles screaming. Max barked again, sharp and fast. A warning. Daniels looked up just in time to see a huge branch falling. He turned his back to it and crouched, shielding Lily as it slammed into the ground, inches away. Max circled back, eyes wide. "I'm okay," Daniels said through clenched teeth. "Go, go." Max took off again, leading them toward a narrow ridge. The air was thick with dirt and fog. Daniels followed blindly, lungs burning. The trail twisted, rose up sharply, then dipped into a steep slope. Mud slid beneath his feet. He nearly fell, but Max barked again, guiding him to the firmer side. "You're a miracle, boy," Daniels muttered, stumbling but not stopping. A rock rolled past, crashing into the trees below. Daniels risked a glance back. The path they'd been on gone, swallowed by sliding earth and stone. If Max hadn't turned when he did, Daniels shook the thought away. Lily whimpered in his arms, her eyes fluttered. Dazed. "Stay with me, kiddo," he whispered. "We're almost out." Max suddenly stopped at a small overhang, just wide enough to crouch beneath. He barked twice, then pushed inside. Daniels followed, ducking low. They squeezed into the cramped shelter just as another wave of rocks thundered down the path behind them. Daniels crouched with Lily in his lap, body shaking. Mud sprayed across the entrance. A stone hit the side wall and cracked. But they were safe, for now. Daniels pressed his forehead to the ground, breathing hard. Max lay across the entrance, protecting them. For a long moment no one spoke, just the sound of the storm, fading in the distance, swallowed by the forest. Daniels finally looked up. "You okay, girl?" Lily gave the faintest nod. "You did good," he whispered, brushing her damp hair from her face. Max let out a soft whine. Daniels met his eyes. "You saved us, boy." The overhang creaked slightly. Daniels looked up. The structure was holding, barely. He knew they couldn't stay here long. But there was one thing he knew for sure. Max had kept them alive when everything else tried to take them. Daniels checked his radio. Static. He cursed under his breath. The signal was gone again. "All right," he muttered. "We wait for 5 minutes, then move." Max rested his chin on his paws, watching the woods outside. Even in shelter he didn't let down his guard. Daniels looked out over Max's shoulder. The trail ahead was narrow, slick and barely visible, but it was their only way out. "We'll make it," he whispered. "Because of you, Max." Lily stirred again, weak but alert. "Mama," she mumbled. Daniels bent lower. "She's waiting for you. We're going home, okay? Just hang on." Max stood, tail stiff. Something outside caught his attention. Not a threat this time. A sound. The low hum of rotors. Daniels froze, then scrambled to his feet. He stepped forward, holding Lily tightly. In the distance, through the thinning fog, a light flickering through the trees. He rushed outside, holding the radio high. "This is Officer Daniels. I have the girl. We're under the West Ridge." "Repeat, West Ridge." Static. Then, "Copy that." We see you. Stay put. We're lowering medics now. Daniels laughed, relief flooding him. You hear that, Lily? They're coming. Max barked twice, not with warning but joy. The sound bounced off the trees like a promise. Daniels looked down at him. We did it, buddy. We made it. But Max didn't celebrate. He turned, faced the woods, and growled. Low. Deep. Sir. Daniels blinked. What is it, boy? Max didn't move, just stared into the trees. Daniels followed his gaze. Nothing, only shadows. But Max knew something was there, and he wasn't leaving, not yet. Daniels dropped to his knees, mud soaking through his pants. As he laid Lily down gently on the flattest part of the clearing. Her face was pale, her lips blue, she shivered in jerky spasms. Eyes half closed. Max immediately curled up beside her, pressing his warm body against hers like a living blanket. Daniels wiped the sweat from his face with a shaking hand. Rain still dripped from the trees, but the worst of the storm had passed. For now, he pulled out the radio again, tapping it, shaking it, begging it. Come on. Don't quit on me now. Only static, he cursed under his breath, and slammed it shut. That had been their last chance to call out. No signal, no help, just trees, just night, just fear. Daniels looked at Max, who hadn't moved. The dog lay close to Lily, head resting near her chest, eyes scanning the dark woods. She needs help soon, Daniels whispered. Max didn't react. He just stayed there, silent, still, guarding. Daniels took off his jacket and tucked it gently over Lily. Her fingers clutched weakly at the fabric. You're doing good, sweetheart, he murmured. Just a little longer. He looked up at the black sky. No stars, no moon. The fog had rolled back in, thick and heavy like smoke. Daniels had seen hard nights before, in storms, in floods, even in fire zones. But this was the worst, because it wasn't just about surviving. It was about a little girl, cold, barely breathing, and a dog who had given everything to find her. Max's ear twitched. He let out a soft whine, and his eyes met Daniels'. Daniels swallowed hard. I know, buddy. I know. He sat down beside them, wrapping one arm around Max, the other around Lily. His body ached, every muscle screamed, but he couldn't rest. Not really. He listened to the wind shift through the trees. He heard branches creak, far off. Maybe an owl. But no rescue chopper. No searchlights. No help. Do you think they'll find us before morning? Daniels asked, not expecting an answer. Max blinked, then lowered his head again. Daniels chuckled softly. Didn't think so. Lily stirred. Her voice was barely a whisper. Am I going home? Daniels leaned close, brushing her wet hair from her face. Yeah, he said. You are, I promise. Her eyes fluttered. She gave the tiniest nod, then fell back asleep. Daniels checked her pulse. Still there, faint but steady. He looked down at Max. You're the reason she's still here, you know that? Max didn't move, just stayed there, warming her. Daniels leaned back against a tree. He tried to keep his eyes open, but his body begged for rest. He'd told Lily they were close, but he didn't know that for sure. He didn't even know which direction was which anymore. He just knew he couldn't let either of them die out here. Not after how far they'd come. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Time blurred. Then, a sound, crack, like a twig underfoot. Daniels sat up fast, hand going to his flashlight. Max rose too, low growl in his throat. The beam swept through the trees. Nothing. Probably a deer, Daniels whispered. Max didn't agree. He stepped forward, tail stiff. Daniels stood, keeping Lily wrapped in the jacket. Another sound, closer, and then a light, flickering, moving between the trees. Max barked once, sharp and quick. Daniels raised his flashlight again. Two figures appeared from the fog, rescue workers in orange vests, eyes wide. We found them, one yelled. We got him. Daniels almost dropped to his knees from relief. They rushed forward with blankets, radios, and stretchers. She's cold, Daniels said, handing Lily over. But she's alive. The medic nodded. Let's get her warmed up. We've got a helicopter a quarter-mile out. As they lifted Lily carefully onto a stretcher, Max stood to the side, watching. Daniels reached for his radio. Now it worked. Of course it did. He called in the update, confirmed their location, and then turned back to Max. We did it, he said quietly. You did it, but Max didn't wag his tail. He looked back toward the woods, toward the direction they'd come from. Daniels followed his gaze. What is it, boy? Max took a slow step toward the trees. Then another. Daniels called out. Max? Max stopped. He let out a low bark, then turned back once more, staring into the forest like he wasn't done yet. Like something else was out there. Something that needed him. The wind had turned bitter. Every gust cut through the trees like knives. Daniels huddled tighter around Lily, shielding her from the cold as best he could. But Max didn't move an inch. He stood facing the dark forest, his muscles tense, ears shifting at every rustle, every snap of a twig. Daniels had tried to coax him to rest, even just for a few minutes, but Max wouldn't budge. He's not gonna relax until we're all out of here, Daniels muttered, glancing down at Lily. She was breathing, still weak but steady, wrapped in his jacket, warmed by Max's body heat, and now a thermal blanket from the rescue team. She looked a little better, but she needed a hospital soon. Daniels checked his watch. Almost 4 a.m. Still no sign of the chopper. They'd said it would land as close as possible once the fog cleared. But that was over an hour ago. A sudden gust shook the trees, and Max's head snapped toward the sound. His ears went rigid. Then he barked, loud, sharp, a warning, or a signal. Daniels sat up straighter. What is it, boy? Max took a few steps toward the edge of the clearing. Tail stiff, he barked again, louder this time, then paused, listening. And then, a sound, low, deep and distant. At first, Daniels thought it was thunder. But it wasn't. It was the unmistakable rumble of a helicopter. Oh my God, Daniels stood up fast. They're here. He dug into his pack, grabbed the emergency flare, twisted it open, and struck the cap. With a hiss and a blinding red glow, the flare ignited. He held it high above his head, waving it slowly in a circle. Over here, he shouted. We're down here. Max barked again, as if adding to the signal. His eyes were locked on the sky. The sound of the rotors grew louder, stronger. Then, above the tree line, through a gap in the branches, light, a spotlight burst through the fog, sweeping back and forth. Daniels waved the flare higher. Come on, you see us. The beam swept past them once, then circled back. It stopped, locked on. We've got eyes, Daniels shouted, heart racing. They see us. The chopper hovered for a moment, then tilted and began lowering. Max barked again, tail wagging once before going stiff again. Daniels could feel it. Hope. Real hope. They were going to get out. Rescue workers who had gone back to guide the helicopter now reappeared, jogging into the clearing. One of them gave a thumbs up. They're landing just beyond that ridge, he yelled over the wind. We've got 5 minutes. Daniels knelt by Lily and gently lifted her into his arm. You're going home, kiddo, he whispered. You held on long enough. Max trotted alongside them, never leaving Lily's side. As they made their way toward the pickup point, the wind from the chopper kicked up dirt and leaves. Branches shook. The spotlight stayed steady, guiding them like a lighthouse in the dark. Daniels felt the weight lift from his chest. They were safe. They were okay. But just as they reached the ridge, Max stopped. Daniels noticed it immediately. The dog stood still, staring into the forest again. Same direction as before, same stiff posture. Daniels paused, breathing hard. Hey, come on, we've got to go. Max didn't move. He let out a soft growl. Not angry, not scared, alert, focused. Daniels looked at the forest, trying to see what Max saw. Nothing but shadows. Then Max barked, a short, sharp bark, and took a step forward. Max, Daniels shouted over the sound of the chopper. No, buddy. We're done. Let's go. But Max looked back once, then disappeared into the trees. Daniels turned to the rescue team. Take her, he said, handing Lily to the medic. She's stable enough. Get her out. Where are you going? The man asked. Daniels didn't answer. He just ran after Max. Branches whipped against his face. Roots snagged his boots. But he didn't stop. Max. He shouted again. What are you doing? Up ahead. Max barked again. But this time, it wasn't the same kind of bark. It was urgent, desperate. Daniels pushed through the brush, and then, a sound, small, soft, from somewhere deeper in the trees. Help. Daniels froze. He turned toward the voice. It came again. Please. Someone. His stomach dropped. No way. He whispered. Another kid. He broke into a run, heart pounding, following Max's barks. Whatever this was, it wasn't over yet. The flare's red glow lit up the clearing like a fire in the sky. Daniels held it high, waving back and forth like his life depended on it. The forest around them pulsed in the glow. Twisted trees, scattered gear, and Max standing tall beside Lily, barking like his voice could cut through the clouds. And then, the light changed. A bright white beam swept through the fog above. A spotlight. Daniels yelled. They see us, Max. They see us. The sound of blades slicing air grew louder. A rescue chopper hovered overhead. Its spotlight locked on them. A megaphone crackled. Hold your position. We are descending. Daniels dropped the flare and knelt beside Lily, pulling the jacket tighter around her. Her eyelids fluttered, but she didn't speak. She looked pale. So small. Max stood beside her, tail still, body frozen, like a statue guarding something sacred. From the helicopter, ropes dropped. Figures in bright orange suits descended fast, their boots hitting the ground with solid thuds. Rescue team. One shouted, You're safe now. Daniels stepped back, breath catching in his throat. We've got a child. Hypothermic and weak, he said, voice shaking. Two medics rushed forward, unrolling a thermal blanket and medical kit. Daniels looked at Max. It's okay, buddy, he said softly. They've got her now. Max didn't move. One of the medics knelt beside Lily, checking her pulse and covering her with the silver blanket. She's alive, he said, faint but strong. Daniels felt his knees go weak. He had to look away for a second. Everything hit at once. The storm, the cliffs, the silence, the search, Max's bark, that tiny voice calling out. And now, we need to airlift her immediately, the medic said. The hospital's 30 minutes out. Max stepped closer, nose pressed gently to Lily's fingers. She didn't open her eyes, but her hand twitched, just enough to touch the fur on his snout. Daniels whispered, She knows you're here. The second medic clipped Lily into a stretcher harness. They began lifting her slowly, steady hands guiding the ropes. Max kept his eyes on her the whole time, and just before she rose out of reach, he licked her hand. One soft, final goodbye. Daniels watched him. That single motion. It wasn't just instinct. It was love. The stretcher disappeared into the helicopter. Then, the ropes followed, and in seconds the chopper began to rise again, blades roaring louder, spotlight blinking off. Max sat down in the clearing, eyes on the sky. Daniels crouched beside him. You did it, Max, he said. You brought her home. Max didn't move for a while. He just sat there, staring into the fog where the helicopter had vanished, ears flicking at the sound of wind cutting through trees. One of the rescue crew came over. We'll get both of you out next, he said. You all right? Daniels looked at Max. He gave a weak smile. Ask him. Max finally turned, stood up and walked to Daniels' side, leaning against his leg. The crew set up a second lift, a double harness, one for Daniels, one for Max. Daniels clipped in, still catching his breath. He glanced around the clearing, this place where everything had almost ended and where something new began. I've seen him do incredible things, Daniels said, but this was different. The rescuer nodded. He didn't just find her. Daniels looked down at Max, who met his eyes. He never gave up. The lift began to rise, slowly carrying them above the trees. Wind tugged at Daniels' coat. Max stayed perfectly still in the harness, eyes still locked on the forest below. As they rose higher, the clearing disappeared beneath them, a tiny circle swallowed by darkness. Daniels closed his eyes for a second. He could still hear her voice in his head, that faint, help, and Max's bark cutting through it like a beacon. When they landed on the chopper pad, another team was waiting. Max jumped out first, scanning the area. Daniels followed, legs shaking. Inside the chopper, Lily was hooked up to warm IV fluids, an oxygen mask gently wrapped around her face. A nurse looked at Daniels. "She's stable. You got to her just in time." Daniels exhaled, long and deep. Max trotted over to the edge of the helicopter and curled up beside Lily's stretcher. He didn't whine, didn't bark. He just laid there touching her side, like he was guarding her one last time. Daniels smiled through his tears. "She's gonna make it, Max," he whispered. The helicopter rose again, flying toward lights in the distance. The lights of the town that had been holding its breath since Lily went missing. And Max, he stayed close, because the job wasn't over until Lily was home safe. News spread like wildfire. By morning, every major network was playing the same shaky footage. Max barking under a blood-red flare, Lily wrapped in blankets, Daniels clutching her hand with tears in his eye. The headline flashed bold and bright across screens. K9 hero finds missing girl against all odds. Clips from the search showed muddy cliffs, cold rain, and Max leading the way through dark woods. Like a soldier on a mission, people everywhere were glued to their TVs. Some cried, some cheered. All of them felt something stir deep in their hearts. Commentators called it a miracle, but Max didn't care about cameras or cheers. All he wanted was to see Lily again. Daniels and Max stood outside the hospital a day later. The sky was clear now, blue and sun. The storm had passed. People gathered around with cameras, microphones, even a podium. Reporters called out, "Officer Daniels, how did Max track her through the storm? Was there ever a moment you thought it was over?" Daniels held Max's leash tightly. His uniform was clean again. His eyes were not. He looked down at Max, who sat calmly beside him, tongue out, tail still. "I've served with Max for 6 years," Daniels said, voice rough. "I've seen him work through explosions, fire, gunfire, but what he did out there, that wasn't training." He looked up at the crowd. That was heart. A man in a dress uniform stepped forward. It was the police chief. In recognition of bravery, determination, and saving a life, the chief said, pulling a small red box from his pocket, "We present K9 Max with the Medal of Honor." Applause erupted. Daniels leaned down and clipped the medal to Max's collar. Cameras flashed. Max didn't move. He wasn't interested in medals. His ears twitched. His head tilted slightly toward the hospital. Daniels noticed. He smiled. "You don't care about this, do you?" Max looked up at him. Daniels chuckled. "You just want to see her." Later that evening, Daniels walked Max quietly into the hospital. No press, no noise, just hallway lights and the faint beep of machines. A nurse met them near the door. "She's awake," she said gently, "and she's been asking for the dog." Daniels nodded. They stepped into Lily's room. She looked smaller than before, tucked under blankets, a bandage on her forehead, an IV in her arm. Her parents were by her side, holding her hands, whispering thanks. When Lily saw Max, her face lit up, not with shock, not with surprise, with peace, like she'd been waiting for him. She whispered, "Max." Max walked slowly to her bed, careful, calm. He placed both front paws on the edge and laid his head beside her arm. Lily's tiny fingers touched his fur. "You came back," she whispered. Daniels swallowed hard. "I told you," he said softly. "He never gives up." Lily smiled, weak but real. "I wasn't scared when I heard him. I knew someone was coming." Max licked her hand once, then rested his head there, eyes closing. Everyone in the room went quiet. It was like something sacred had just happened. For days Max stayed close to Lily's side. Nurses brought him treats. Doctors smiled when they walked by. Other patients peeked into the room just to see the miracle dog. But Max didn't care about attention. He just watched over her. When she cried in her sleep, he nuzzled her hand. When she reached out without looking, he was already there. It wasn't about being a hero. It was about being hers. When Lily was finally discharged, the hospital let Max walk beside her wheelchair. People lined the exit. Some clapped, others wiped their eyes. A young boy leaned over to his mom and whispered, "I want to be like that dog." Daniels overheard. He smiled but didn't say anything. Outside, the sun was setting. Lily stood on shaky legs and turned to Max. "Can I hug him?" she asked. Daniels nodded. She dropped to her knees, arms wrapped tight around Max's neck. "Thank you," she said. Max didn't move, just let her hold on. That night, back at the station, Daniels was filling out paperwork when another officer walked in. "You see this?" the man asked, holding up a tablet. "They want to name a park after Max." Daniels blinked. "A park?" "Yeah, Max's trail. They want to mark the route he took to find her." Daniels leaned back in his chair. He looked at the corner where Max's bed sat, empty now, because Max was curled up under his desk. Sleeping, but even in sleep, his ears twitched, always listening, always ready. Daniels whispered, "You did the impossible, Max." Max's tail thumped once, and then the phone rang. Daniels answered. It was Lily's mom. "She can't sleep," she said. "She keeps calling for Max." Daniels looked down. "You want me to bring him over?" There was silence. Then, "If it's okay with him." Daniels laughed. He tapped the side of the desk. Max popped up instantly. "Want to go see Lily?" Max barked once, sharp, joyful, and in seconds they were out the door again. Because the job wasn't over. Because some heroes don't retire. They just keep going, one heartbeat at a time. 3 weeks had passed. The world had moved on. News cycles spun new headlines, new dramas. But for Daniels, life slowed down. No more search missions. No more chaos. Just long walks, quiet evenings, and Max. Max had changed. He didn't sleep as deeply. Sometimes in the middle of the night, he'd whimper in his sleep. Daniels would wake to find Max pacing by the window, ears perked, like something was still out there, like he hadn't fully come home. Daniels tried not to worry. "You're safe now, buddy," he'd whisper. "You did what no one else could." But deep down, he knew. Some part of Max was still in that forest. Then came a soft knock at the door. Daniels wasn't expecting anyone. He opened it slowly, and froze. There she was. Lily. Her cheeks were pink again, hair neatly brushed. A small bandage peeked from under her beanie, but her eyes were bright, alive. She held a bouquet of wild flowers in her hands. Her mother stood behind her, smiling gently, but said nothing. "Hi," Lily said softly. Daniels blinked. "Hey, kid." Before he could say more, Max appeared behind him, and the second Lily saw him, she dropped the flowers. "Max." She ran forward, arms open. Max let out a sound Daniels hadn't heard in weeks. A full howl, deep from his chest. Not fear, not pain, joy. He leapt forward, almost knocking her over, tail wagging like a helicopter blade. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held tight. "I missed you so much," she whispered. Daniels stepped back, letting the moment breathe. No cameras, no reporters, just a girl and her dog. Lily and her mom stayed for tea. Max never left her side. She sat on the carpet, giggling every time he licked her face. "He kept me warm that night," she told Daniels. "When I was under the log, I thought I was gonna, but then I heard him." She looked down and stroked Max's ears. "He saved my life." Daniels nodded. "Yeah, he saved a lot more than that." Lily looked up. "What do you mean?" Daniels sat on the couch, watching Max. "I've seen dark things, in war, on the streets, but that night, seeing him find you, reminded me why I do this job. It gave me something back I didn't know I'd lost." She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "He's my hero." Max barked once, as if agreeing. Later, as the sun began to set, Lily's mom called to her. "We should get going, sweetie." Lily stood up slowly, hugging Max one last time. She whispered something into his fur. Daniels couldn't hear what it was. Then she picked up the flowers she'd dropped earlier and handed them to Daniels. "They're for him," she said. Daniels took them carefully. "He'll love them." She smiled, turned and walked to the car, but just before getting in, she looked back and called out, "Can I visit again?" Daniels looked at Max, then back at her. "Anytime." That night, Daniels placed the flowers in a glass on the kitchen table. Max sat beside it, staring for a long time. Then he lay down, rested his head on his paws, and finally slept. No pacing, no barking, just peace. Word spread in town. Children drew pictures of Max and Lily. A bakery made bone-shaped cookies, called Max Treats. The local library put up a display, called The Dog Who Did the Impossible. But none of it mattered to Max. He wasn't chasing fame. He was just a dog who didn't know how to give up. Weeks later, Daniel stood beside Max in a crowded park. It had been renamed Max's Trail. Signs marked the path Max had taken that night. Every turn, every cliff, every brush with danger. The final sign read, "He didn't follow orders, he followed his heart." Lily was there too. This time, she brought a toy, a new squeaky ball for Max. She threw it once. He chased it down like he was 2 years younger. And when he brought it back, she kissed his head and said, "I'll never forget you." Daniels watched them. His eyes were damp. He knelt beside Max, scratching behind his ears. They said it couldn't be done, that the forest was too big, the storm too strong, the chances too low. He paused. "But you didn't care about chances, did you?" Max licked his hand. Daniels smiled. "You just knew someone needed you." And in that moment, as the wind moved through the trees, as Lily laughed in the distance, and Max stood tall with his medal shining in the sun, no one could deny it. What everyone else had called impossible, the K9 made happen. And in that moment, as Lily held him close, and the world watched in awe, one truth stood clear. When all hope was lost, it was a dog who brought it back. If Max's story moved you, share it, and let the world know what a loyal heart can truly do.